Yeah.
Holiday season can be the most peaceful time of year,
It
but
can.
for some people, it can be a very difficult time filled with grief and loss and even chaos if we're not careful.
We're going to go ahead and say it's the most wonderful, chaotic time of the year. How do we all hold it together as we go into this chaotic time of the year?
I honestly think not only how do we hold it together, but what does holding it together cost us?
Dr. Riffy, it's the most wonderful time of the year. We know that.
Or the most stressful.
Or the most Wait a minute. I just have to just wet my throat because this is going to be an episode because we know that many of our listeners, yes, it's the most wonderful time of the year, but we know those wonderful times and those wonderful holidays takes us to family of origin.
Yeah. So we got to talk about it.
We want
to encourage y'all to pop open a drink with us. And this would be a really, really good opportunity to talk about our new sponsor.
Yes.
And the good thing that they're doing.
Yes, Free Life. I mean, even in this time of the year, I'm grateful for Free Life as our sponsor because it gives us options.
Yeah.
Options to have something non-alcoholic to drink during the holiday. You know, you're going to parties, it's going to be festive. It just gives different options. Not being judgy. If there's alcohol there, you let them do what they want to do. But then there's options for people who want to have a non-alcoholic choice. So very appreciative of that. Now let's get to the stress that family gatherings and the holidays may bring. How do we manage that? How do we know that we're going into the environments where we've taken possibly the time to remove labels or I haven't seen Aunt Harriet in 15 years and she might treat me like the 15-year-ago me. And here I sat having, done work or trying to manage all the things.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? But at the same time, still honoring family, right? You want to honor. How do we live in the and? We're going to talk a lot on our podcast about living in the both and.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we want to be at this extreme or that extreme. What does it look like to find a middle ground and say, yes, it's the most wonderful time of the year and I want to be in family, but I do understand that there's going to be just a little bit of chaos, good chaos with the silver bells and the doing the things, but then a little bit of chaos of managing stress.
Yeah. I think it's important to note too why we're doing this and why we're having these conversations, especially right before the holiday. And why these conversations are so important. Surrounding therapy and getting, or even just having some sort of community. Because I feel like we can't talk about the holidays without talking about our family of origin or communities. And so I think it's so important to note that at this current moment, only about maybe 5 to 10% of Black women, 21.5% of white women are seeking out therapy right now. But there's so many more that need it and need that help. And so as we begin to have these conversations, our hope is to open up more conversations about how to navigate the holiday seasons. If you don't have access for whatever reason, or maybe there's some barriers to you getting some therapy this season,
or
what
something,
that looks like.
To help you manage. I remember you talking to me about that stat, like 5 to 10% of African-American women, and then like 30% or so of their counterparts, right? That are actually engaging some type of intervention that will allow you. And I think it's good to clear that up and make it okay.
Yeah.
We can't talk about it without talking about making it okay to even say, listen, I do not manage the stress of not just the holidays, but stress in general. Stress is a silent killer.
Yeah.
It just is. Medically, you probably could tell us more about that, but it just is. And so when you told me that stat and you were talking about it, I remember thinking, well, what is the other 95 to 90% of women that look like me and African-American women or minority women doing? And what are the other 70% or so of, Eurocentric women or the counterpart doing to manage your stress, especially in the chaos of the holiday. And I came to the conclusion we're just running through these holiday streets or running through the holiday world, just sharing whatever that we're not managing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I always want to give a nod to allowing people to manage how they manage.
Yeah.
Like we're saying therapy, but then we had our sponsor on, Christina, that was talking about sobriety during these holidays. Are we being considerate that there are people that are walking through sobriety and they need an option and they need to not feel singled out when they get into environments, I could say, well, I'm not having alcoholic beverages. So I could say, well, there's not going to be any in my holiday. Well, I love and care for people and have family members that don't come from the same place. And we have to stay on one of the overarching themes for counseling or therapy, which is autonomy. So people have the right to choose. So how do we take
And I just want to make a quick note just to say that I've always tell people, and I tell my clients all the time, that healthy parents make healthy homes.
Yeah.
And so these conversations are going to be super important for us to have leading up to the holidays, of how we can navigate the most chaotic and stressful time of the year
with our
in
family.
a healthy way.
Yeah.
And then that'll allow for us to have a healthy engagement for the holidays as well.
Absolutely. As we think about it, like you said, we're going in and, family is the place that we navigate things. How do we hold it together though? Could you talk a little bit about that? How do we all hold it together as we go into this chaotic time of the year?
I honestly think, and I never want to challenge you too heavily, but I honestly think not only how do we hold it together, but what is holding it together cost us, I think is such an even like more important lens right now for us to look through with the holidays coming up. And I feel like trying to present like things are all together when they're not costs you. It costs you your peace.
Yeah.
It costs you your joy.
Yeah.
And it costs you your physical health too. And I feel like it has that temporary feeling of satisfaction and gratification, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like I have it all together, and that feels good in the moment, but it usually leads to kind of like this imploding moment where all of everything starts to come out.
We are in this, when, what is it? We are in the generation of crash out.
Yes.
And so,
yes. And so I feel like rather than trying to hold it together or trying to let everything look perfect, or like you have it all together before the holidays, I think the healthier thing is to practice, your peace and practice your conflict resolution and those things to the level that you can, and then continue to acknowledge where you need to continue to work on it. But I do know that when you hold stress in your body, it can lead to higher blood pressure. It can lead to strokes. It can lead to heart attacks. So it can
cost you your health.
It can cost you your health.
Yeah.
And it just costs you your peace.
And cost you relationships too.
Yeah.
Because if you don't deal with these, sometimes the minor can become the major. Just the picture or the whatever you didn't give back. Because these are grief times, right? You getting into the holidays, and not just do you have chaos, but you have people that are dealing with loss and that are dealing with grief. And so what you think cannot be a major, like moving an ornament that's been there for the last 25 years. Or if I have a family member who sat that ornament there for 25 years and this is the first year that they're not there, then that can become major. We both know, Dr. Riffy, that you can't, Dr. Mo, that you can't pour from an empty cup, right? But these times of holidays, with the pomp and circumstance of it all, is what women are asked to do, many of us, like in our homes, to make it look pretty perfect when there's underlying stressors. What do we do? Like, what are just some simple... Let's talk about that. What are some simple practical things we can do when family dynamics or family tensions pop up in our fa la 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 la, right? We're supposed to be fa la 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 la, right? But then this tension pops up. So what does that look like? And we are believing doing the work to do the work. So we can even look into our own family. How do we do it? How do you do it?
I think the most important thing, I could go into like 4 square breathing or deep breathing and things like that.
Which is important.
Which is very important.
If you know how to do it, do
there are
it.
apps and other things that you can use that can guide you through that. But something that I really thought about in this season that may be good, especially if you're in a room or in a setting and you feel triggered or you feel high anxiety, are some grounding techniques. And then also the 5 senses. And I would love if you could kind of walk us through what it looks like to do a quick 5 senses exercise.
Absolutely. A lot of times that those responsives or that feel to be reactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is rooted and grounded in truth. Like there is something that happened, and in this moment, something palpable is happening that makes you want to respond like you did.
Mm-hmm.
In that time. And so grounding and 5 senses is always something really quick that you can do anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like it involves your 5 senses, your touch, your feel, your hearing. Sometimes I will, I've used it or I've taught people to use it. You just stop in that moment and you look at something that is pleasing or that will distract you, or you're like, I'm here. I am in this space. That's almost bringing mindfulness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be mindful. So when I say to myself, yes, that happens. Yes, I feel in my body that I want to be responsive to what this tension is in the room. I can also just ground myself in the fact that, yes, I'm in the room. The music sounds wonderful. Silver Bells is playing, that you're hearing, right? Tune into something that is positive and what I call stay positive and perpendicular, meaning something that is positive that will bring me joy, or just going straight to something that is not negative in the room.
Yeah.
I often do it with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's a tension in the room and it's exuding out of the person, I have a tendency to scan the room or to look around and find somebody that is exuding the opposite.
Yeah.
And then I navigate myself physically to that person, changing my atmosphere.
And it does.
And shifting my inner self, right?
Yes. It gives you an opportunity to take a quick beat. Just to assess yourself, see if you're ready and able to pivot.
Right.
Do you need to remove yourself or can you remain in space?
In the space. I love pivot. You know, we're going to talk about boundaries.
You can't talk about family
without talking about boundaries.
And holidays without talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Very quickly, can you tell the people what a proper boundary looks like?
Well, I think, and we're going to get more into this for our listeners as time goes on. We can't flesh it out in this one episode. It could be a series of its own. But I am even coming more aware of how we even use boundaries. I think, like in the past, I thought boundaries were something you impose on someone else.
Right.
Like, let's just be culturally competent. If I started with the phrase, what you're not going to do.
Right.
Right. I'm finna impose something on you, right? But I am learning more to walk people through and to walk even myself through what it looks like to put boundaries on myself.
Yeah.
You have to know first. People, who is it, Maya Angelou, that said you teach people how to treat you.
Right.
Right? Well, I can't teach you how to treat me or give you a boundary if I don't even know how to treat myself. Right? So you do the work, of course, to do the work. I think for our listeners are going to be walking through the world saying that. And hopefully so, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to turn the mirror inward on the boundaries.
And I think it's so important to know. I feel like, especially as a millennial,
I'm
hearing those boundaries kind of used a little bit kind of off online.
Right.
Right. And if you are using a boundary to withhold something from somebody else, you're really using manipulation, not a boundary. And control. And so boundaries are really never about somebody else as much as they are about you.
Yes.
And then also boundaries have to be fluid.
Yeah.
Meaning I'm giving you an opportunity to rise to the occasion, right? And to respect that boundary. Yeah. When you don't, boundaries do come not with punitive consequence, right? But they do come with some type of perimeters.
Like, and sometimes what we forget is we're so rigid in our boundaries, like perimeters, and we'll cover that with our listeners too, if they're
Right.
interested in covering that. But it is permeability within those boundaries as well. So being rigid sometimes, if you walk in the room, and here's one, these 2 phrases that I've challenged with my clients, I challenged with you guys as millennials. One is, I'm going to match that energy.
Right.
That's not good for boundary setting. Like, are you going to match the energy? What if the energy is toxic?
Right.
What if the energy is maladaptive?
Right.
So you've just made a promise to yourself to, I'm going to say, what I call a thing, to stoop to the level of maladaptive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's the one thing. And the other thing I often challenge is on site.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Talk about,
I feel like you have to channel your inner Michelle Obama.
Right.
We have to go higher. And that is the hardest thing that I have learned to do personally.
Right.
We actually had recently had a family event, and we had unfortunately the passing of a great matriarch in our family.
Yeah.
She was a good woman of God, and she kept
Yes.
people together.
Yes.
And she had a beautiful soul. She was one of the rare people that I could say I have not one bad memory of her.
Not
and that
one.
is very rare.
Right.
I have bad memories of myself.
Right.
You know, so to say that I have no bad memories of somebody, she was a wonderful woman. But when I attended her funeral, it had been the first time that I had seen some family members in a very long time. And I was shocked at the growth that I had gained in therapy.
Right.
I was like, that would have took me back in the day. Like I would have really matched that energy, or I really would have tried to tit for tat some things. And I'm learning that there's so much peace in doing your work.
Yeah.
You don't have to chase every single thing that's presented
what did I
to you.
say when you guys were younger? You don't have to attend every emotional party that you're invited to.
Exactly.
You're gonna get invitations to emotional parties that will invite you to show up reactively during the chaos of the holiday.
Yeah.
Like that is not a maybe. That is almost like a promise.
Yeah.
Like because we're touched by humanity. We are all humane. We are all touched by humanity. And so when we were looking at boundaries, how about those boundaries just be on myself? How about I say I'm not going to attend every emotional party I see it? There's a book about, is it Mel Robbins that wrote the Let Them book?
Let Them theory, yeah.
The Let Them, like a Let Them theory.
The Let Them theory.
Now that's a good one. Like I'm reading through that. And what does it look like to let people have their listen. This is what I'm going to say about boundaries. I'm learning to set them on myself. One of my hardest lessons, do the work. One of my hardest lessons is it's none of my business what people think about. You run around the whole holiday party trying to manage what people think about you. That's none of your business. It is their right to think whatever they want to.
And I want to point out too, like when I go back to that family event, one of the beauties that I think I missed for years because I was so reactive and in therapy building those tools and being able to kind of master that skill a little bit is I missed the joy and the beautiful aspects of our family.
Yes.
Our family is charismatic. They're fun. You know, there's never a dull moment. They keep me laughing.
Innovative.
They're beautiful, innovative, smart people.
Inside and out.
And so I think you miss the strengths.
You do.
When you're so wrapped up in the deficits.
Yes.
Right? And now this is not covering abusive family dynamics.
No,
right?
we're not.
There's abuse and
Get away
that's
from
a
that.
totally different conversation. But I was able to find and identify safe people within our family unit and safe spaces rather than throwing the whole entire family unit away.
Yeah, and it didn't cost you your peace.
Yeah.
When you think about it, the other thing about the holidays is, yes, we got the hustle and bustle. We've got the pomp and circumstance, but let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to have intentional rest.
Yeah.
Intentionality in the rest. I mean, I'm just going to be candid about it. Like I fight the Black woman trope, right? If I got to constantly be working, doing, like I'm working on that. Like, why do I have to constantly be doing something? And so do I always know how to be? No, but I'm learning. How can we learn to just be and have rest, right? What I'm learning and one of my goals is to learn. And it came to me like this. I want to learn to work from a place of rest. Those don't even sound like they go together though. But what does that make you feel when you say, how do you work from a place of rest? What does that look like?
Right. I feel like for me, I'm learning that rest has to be just as intentional as my work. I cannot just go about scheduling family events, holiday events, work events, and not intentionally write down in my planner or jot in my calendar, this is the time that I will be resting.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to note that we have a mandate to rest.
Ah.
As people, we do.
But
as
do we?
helping
We
professionals
do.
in our
We
ethical
have code
codes.
of ethics.
But
Yeah.
I think also from a faith-based perspective,
Yeah.
listen, if it was good enough for God, it's good enough for me.
On the seventh
He
day.
rested on the seventh
Did he
day.
not?
So for me, I feel like, but that's so intentional.
Yeah.
And the work is not sacrificed when you rest.
Yeah.
And I love this book. It's called Playing by a New Game. It's by an LPC. We'll bring it to one of the episodes to show you guys. But it's this great book written by an LPC about Black women, how we're achieving so much in society right now. We are the most degreed population in the United States. We are in some of the highest seats in different levels of influence in corporations in different marketplaces. But what we are trading for that is our physical health.
There's a cost.
There's a cost on our
cost.
minds and on our bodies. And so what we are also seeing is higher incidence of high blood pressure and strokes and emotional eating. And so what does it look like to say, I want to still achieve those things. I want to maintain success. I want to gain peace and achieve all of these things without sacrificing
doing, yes.
my heart, my mind, and my body.
And my body.
To do so. And so
my body, yeah.
How do you do that? And for me, I'm finding, listen, that email will still be there in 3 hours.
Will it not? Because no one's
still
gonna
there.
no one is gonna answer it.
If it's not there, another problem is gonna be right there waiting on you. So, what does it look like to be so intentional about saying, this is the time for myself
to do it?
And for my moms, I'm learning I need to have time to rest, not on a Sunday, but I also need to have time to rest during the week.
Let's talk about that for a second. I think people don't understand the difference. There's a difference between relaxation that should happen daily. So for our listeners, please find a moment to relax. Personally, I call them pockets of peace.
Right.
I find a pocket of peace every day. If it's nothing but sitting down in a chair, sitting still for a moment. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. At being in our profession, it is hard because it's so unilateral. It's so give, that it is difficult for me to do it. But my heart's desire is to continue to check in myself, make sure I relax. Then you have a rest that you're talking about that I need to schedule in for the weekend. Friends, fun, family. What does that look like? Or rest looks different for everybody. Let's be clear. For your introvert, if I'm going to say I'm going to rest and you're going to go to the beach and people are going to be clamming around, that might not be it. It might be a quiet book.
Yeah.
It may be a soft light and a soft candle. So you have relaxation daily, rest weekly, and then you have a respite. And that respite looks like something that comes on the click of your profession or your family. A respite for me can happen quarterly. It can happen once a year.
Yeah.
So literally really creating peace in yourself.
I just want to challenge that because we're so intentional about everything else. I'm so intentional about making sure my baby gets it to her practices. I'm so intentional about making sure the whole family gets to church on Sunday. I'm so intentional about making sure that I've scheduled in everything else that is required of me. I've got to start having some intentionality.
That's so good.
About scheduling time for me to just be.
That is so good. That's that just set off something in me because that is, I'll be honest, that is one of the bigger works, even my bigger work. How do I not do? How do I be? And the operative word is how. Because sometimes I know I need to be, but how do I do it? But even the Lord, right? If I ascribe to anchor myself in scripture. And so he says, he maketh me lie down. And I had read the 23rd Psalms forever. And I'm like, okay, we're going to rest. No, the word maketh. I really went and looked it up. It is a command. So there's even a biblical command, and we'll flesh that out more with our listeners in the future to rest. So it's not just our ethical duty. It's not, but it is not just our personal duty. The more rested you are as a mom, can't pour from an empty cup. As a friend, as a wife, as a coworker, it is also a biblical duty.
And I think the holidays are so all-consuming.
All-consuming,
and so kind of going into the new year, we can be very intentional about resting, bringing in peace, right? And starting to kind of reset our life from the hustle and bustle of the holidays to now easing into
the new year. So taking the peace that you find, right? And we're not saying
not that you find, but that you create. You got to create it.
Yeah, that's that creating pockets of peace. And so I hear you saying going beyond that. And so let's say making it a lifestyle, taking it in it. One thing about me, I love New Year's resolution. When we're talking about taking peace into the new year, I love them. Don't get me wrong. But I really do like to stop in December and take inventory, because it's not like the new year is going to drive me into what I need to do. I want to be sitting and contemplating that right now. And so what do I need to take in the new year? And more than that, what do I need to leave in this year? So we're not... for you listeners that are going to say it's doom and gloom that we're saying is going to be chaos. Not what we're saying. Like even going to the mall. We're talking about that type of chaos. We're talking about things. There's stress that you have that is necessary stress.
Yeah.
Right?
Like when they email you and say that you need something for the Christmas pageant that you didn't
know. You ain't even know
the day before.
And you have no colors.
You don't have the colors.
Our listeners we know that our listeners are going to start to begin to tell us the things that matter to them, the things that we're going to discuss. And we're going to be coming up with not coming up with, but using best practices to give practical steps and practical skills of things that can do. This doesn't replace therapy, let's be clear. But there are things that you can do. But at this point where we are right now, I believe we're in the space of reflection. That is the best place to start. Self-reflection, self-introspection, just kind of looking at where I am now and doing an inventory. Just like you talked about with the event that we come after those family events, take a time. Instead of picking up the phone and say, girl, and what would be the response? If I called you and said, girl, you would say what?
I don't even know. It depends.
It comes
it depends on what. If I already know what's going on,
let me pick it right, girl. You know what? And then we'll go into that conversation instead of having that conversation about everything that went wrong and all the quirky things and what does it look like to just take some quiet time to look at me? What did I do well? Not judging myself. Just doing some self-reflection first. What did I do well?
Yeah.
Where's the growth?
I feel like you'll hear me talk about it so much, but self-compassion.
Yeah.
Do not judge yourself for where you are.
Yeah.
This holiday went the way it went. We can't take none of it back.
It is what it is.
But I guarantee you there is something that you did better this year. And I think focusing on that while still acknowledging, don't ignore what you could have worked on.
Right.
I think what the challenge is a lot of times people come and they sit in a therapy seat thinking that they're about to talk about somebody else just to find out that they're going to spend the whole time talking and working on themselves.
It'd be me.
And not that other person isn't maybe doing something or your cousin, sister's brother don't want something to work on too. They do. Absolutely. But I think you find in that therapy process that you spend a lot of time working on your responses, working on your thinking, working on how you function. And in doing that, you find that you end up having an internal peace, whether or not they still do the same thing next year or not.
And you'll pick up patterns. Yeah. If you look at yourself, you'll be like, I was able to pick up in my younger years. I used to have what I used to call a tick, tick, boom. But what I didn't do is I didn't pick up the patterns of what I was doing. And regardless of what anybody else does, if I pick up the tick, then I get rid of the tick, tick, there's no boom, right? So what does it look like to do that? And then contemplation. So self-reflection can then lead you into contemplation. And what is that? I mean, how can I do this differently? And I don't want to say good because good is relative.
To a very safe, close loved one, because sometimes you don't know what you could have did, but they certainly do, right? So if you're not going to engage those traditional therapy spaces, or if you're still contemplating networks. It, find somebody that you love that also can say, hey, baby, I think you could have did this a little different.
Yeah, I do that too sometimes. I'm like, hey, can you kind of like help me with my checkup from the neck up?
Yeah. This was a great conversation, and I love just getting this started. The holiday season can be the most peaceful time of year, but for some people, it can be a very difficult time filled with grief and loss and even chaos if we're not careful.
We're going to go ahead and say it's the most wonderful, chaotic time of the year.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So yeah, I feel like what I want to make sure that people have is access to the things that they need.
Yeah.
And so if you get to a place where you feel like you're stuck, and all of the things that in the tools that are already in your toolbox aren't working. So of course, if you have any needs this holiday season, we do not want you to be out there by yourself. We have a ton of resources, and we would love to be able to direct you in any way that we can.
Absolutely.
At Renew Psych, you can schedule an appointment at 757-937-9273.
Absolutely.